Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 2023 Magic Micsies, proudly sponsored by CoolStuffInc.com, Mana Traders, as well as Twitch subs and Patreon supporters, just like you. And we start this show, as we do with these awards, by saying hello. My name is Evan Irwin, and I am here with my co-host, Ruben Bressler.
Hi, everybody.
MTG Nerd Girl.
Hey, guys.
Special appearance, and Power Dragon. There.
What's up, everybody? It's like we got the whole gang together.
That's
for
right.
the first time in a while.
Everyone together. We all voted on these awards. These are, of course, our opinions, and you are free to have your own and to share yours in the chat or in the comments. That said, let's go ahead and get started with the show. We kick it off first thing with a fun one, with one that is positive and fun and great, and that is Wizards of the Coast best move. What is the best thing that Wizards of the Coast did? And let's go ahead and get started with the nominations here. The nominees are, Ruben, why don't you kick us off here?
Sure. So the nominees for the best WotC move of 2023 are when they announced their 3-year plan at Gen Con, their 3-year announcement day. The faithful recreations of all the wonderful Doctor Who cards. Saving draft boosters, and with the incoming of the new set boosters, the new play boosters, and sort of saving draft as an environment, and the big Universes Beyond licenses getting signed that we're all looking forward to for next year as well.
Yeah, Marvel and so on and so forth. Power Dragon, why don't you give us our winner of our first Magic Mixie of the night?
Our winner was the Gen Con 3-year announcement day. And, it makes sense, right? We found out so much in advance, which we normally don't get that much. We normally get, maybe the next 9 to 12 months, and we sort of know what's coming. And this was just cool to see, like, hey, here's everything that's coming. Here's stuff to get hyped about. Here's some Universes Beyond stuff that's coming. Like, I don't know if this is something we're going to get all the time, but it was really cool to see that and just have all that news all at once.
Gave us something to look forward to, and also, like, all of the other nominees sort of encompassed a lot of what Gen Con was announcing, albeit for the next year, but like we got to sort of have our cake and eat it too and vote for all of the things that we were very hyped for the next year. And I think Gen Con is a great place. That's sort of the debut spot for Wizards of the Coast for Magic the Gathering. That's where it first debuted, so I think that that's great and lovely to bring that back to Gen Con. All in all, pretty excited for all of the new stuff, and I think that was exactly what they wanted to try to recreate.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a number of things I really like about this. One of the big ones, as you mentioned, is they did it at Gen Con. There was a minute there where Magic was sort of trying to separate themselves from Gen Con, and you can't really do that. It's part of the history of the game. And it also was this big 3-year look forward announcement is very Marvel-like. It's very... as Magic grows as a brand and as Wizards of the Coast grows as a division, it's part of the growth to be able to have these big, long looks into the future. And you're right, we're not going to get this every year. Hopefully we'll get it every 3 years, 4 years, something like that, of the next phase of Magic. And I think that that's a really nice thing that was unique to what they did in Magic this year.
Yeah, I think the thing that I like about it, and we kind of discussed it at the time, which is I appreciate that they are, to me, this is a vote of confidence. I mean, this is a show of strength. This game is here. We're not going anywhere. Not only is it here, not going anywhere, we're going to tell you 3 years in advance of stuff that we are working on, and it's going to be sweet, and you're going to be hyped for it. And that type of being open about what they are doing has always been this weird, mysterious, don't tell anybody, did you hear about so-and-so or such and such might be happening the next year? They're like, no, the gauntlet is thrown, Magic's here, and now you get to know all about the next 3 years.
You know what was really crazy about that is, like, there was like, oh, there's Doctor Who stuff and the Fallout, and there's going to be Final Fantasy, and there's this thing. Like, in the middle of that, I forgot we were getting Assassin's Creed stuff. Like,
yeah, right.
Like in the middle of everything else.
Yeah,
so it was a lot of news all at one time.
There you go. So last year's winner was the 40K Commander and Collector decks, but this year was all about knowing what's coming up next. So speaking of the best WotC move, we go to the other end of the spectrum for the worst Wizards of the Coast move. Let's go ahead and talk about our nominees, if you would. Power Dragon.
Yeah, so we're going to start with the D&D Open Gaming License 1.1. That was a lot of hate.
Oh,
And then
boy.
we had the Pinkerton situation, if you want to call it that. And then the Commander Masters not really quite having the proper bust equity there that everybody was hoping for out of that. Obviously, the mass layoff news we got at the end of the year, the 1,100 people left, released by Hasbro. And then you have just too many printings of so many cards, I think was an issue we encountered. And then we wrap it up with March of the Machines Aftermath and pretty much everything around that people didn't like.
Yeah, it's funny when, you know, Rosewater was like, it got the worst scores like ever of any set ever. Like, I'm like, whoa. Okay, that said, let's go ahead and do give the Magic Mixie out to the winner here. Ruben, take it away.
We were split on this, although we were also split, I will say, we were split on the best WotC move as well. Power Dragon wanted to give a shout out to saving Booster Draft, which I think is, you know, laudable and very good. But this one we were also split on, and more split. We decided to go with the D&D OGL debacle that happened at the very beginning of the year. The Open Gaming License debacle that started in December of the previous year and went on for what felt like half the year. Really killed a lot of goodwill, if not most of the goodwill that a lot of the creators had, and it spilled over into Magic, just sort of losing trust amongst your most stringent supporters.
Yeah, for me, I think the biggest issue was just I'm not sure who approved it and wanted to move it forward, because the upside was very small, right? Because the way they had it set up, it was just like, if you made so much money, then, you know, you'd have to pay a percentage or whatever. But as far as I could tell throughout industry stuff, there was only a few handfuls of people or companies that it would have even affected. So I'm not even sure what that adds to the bottom line for Wizards of the Coast or for the D&D brand to really want to shake things up like that. So that was the part that really bugged me. But yeah, you had people that dropped their D&D Beyond subscriptions. You know, every gamer site was talking about it. And then we had a serious backtrack on it. You know, now, fortunately, as the year went on, you had a fun D&D movie that went well. Baldur's Gate went well, you know, and they recovered some of that. But it makes you wonder, how much more could it have been had you not had that thing to start the year?
I'm really bummed about this was such a bonehead move. And I think that this is probably a lot bigger from the Hasbro side of them trying to choke down on the IPs of Wizards of the Coast. And things like the D&D movie received a lot of backlash. And actually the D&D movie wasn't profitable, is my understanding. And I really liked it. So I'm worried that this particular situation prevented us from getting more D&D movies, because I thought the movie was fantastic. I haven't had that much fun in a theater in a long time.
Yeah,
totally enjoyed it.
This is going to affect that. That movie was a flop, and I don't know that connection will be made, preventing us from getting that future like sequel. I'm super bummed.
Yeah, it's a little wild when, you know, our Magic News show gets to give the D&D, you know, move the worst, you know, move, but
it's the WotC move.
It's the Wizards of the Coast.
You're right. The worst.
Wizards of the Coast stepped in it in ways that felt both corporate pushing and like just completely, I don't know if you know, you can call it reading the room, where you're just like, hey, room, can you give me money? You should give me money now, where you never had to give me money. And I recognize sort of where they were coming from, but you also recognize that it scared the hell out of an entire industry. Like Paizo made out like a bandit. All of these different outfits saying they're going to make their own license agreements and stuff that have nothing to do with this. And then Wizards backtracks so hard of like, we're just, you know, we're going to put it into the public domain or whatever, and y'all going to have it open and we're not going to be able to change it anymore. And you're like, okay, you did a whole lot just to shoot yourself in the foot.
It felt really bad this year to look at all of the mistakes that Wizards of the Coast made individually for a couple of reasons. One, there were so many that were very obviously shooting themselves in the foot differently. They're like, oftentimes you can look at a year and be like, Wizards of the Coast made some mistakes, and they were kind of related, maybe. This year they were all unrelated, but they were all kind of either pushed by Hasbro, is what I perceive. No one in Wizards of the Coast, as far as I could tell, wanted the OGL thing to happen. No one that I know who works on Magic the Gathering was like, hey, you know who we should call? The bad guy from the first Bond novel to go shake down this YouTube creator. There's stuff that's you can look at design and be like, they tried something with Aftermath and it didn't work. And there's a reason why Aftermath is on our list, but there were some real, there were some aces this year, but there were some real deuces this year of just horrific mistakes that should have been caught well before the cutting room floor.
Let's move on here to our next Magic Micsie. This would be the hashtag of the year. And we only have a few here to go over. Tell us about them, MTG Nerd Girl.
Yeah, so based on the winner from the last category, we have both Stop the Sub and D&D Be Gone. Those were two hashtags that were used to sort of rally behind this outrage that was coming from the D&D open license announcements from Wizards. We also have the MTG Ambassador, which sort of hit the Magic community over the head with a brick because nobody knew it was coming. And we also had the hashtag The One Ring, which is from, this big, expensive, over $2 million card that was sort of circulating a lot just because of, this was very Willy Wonka-y of Magic for the first time. And it was interesting to see everybody sort of hunting for the ring and talking about the ring. And it really did do exactly what Wizards was trying to do. And the hashtag was born.
And I'll go ahead and take the hashtag winner here. Hashtag MTG Ambassador. That was the hashtag of the year. It was a full sweep. There were no split votes here. I think ultimately what MTG Ambassador in that program represented, I think, was Wizards finally kind of getting and are understanding that if you want to have a kind of fan outreach, sort of a arm of publicity, you need to have people with agreements. They need to be very clear expectations, clear deliverables. What do you get out of it? What do I get out of it? If it's product as payment, if it's product as recompense, great. But everyone's on the same page as to what is happening. And it's not sort of like weird. And it's not like expectations that weren't told to you. It is, here's the program. You can join it if you want. And here's what it takes.
When the hate started, though, it felt like that argument, that statement of, you put $100 bills in boosters, people would bitch about how they're folded, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was, well, why are you giving this money to all these other celebrities to do stuff? You should be supporting your creators. And then they do. And then everybody's mad about it, right? Like, it was like, come on. And
it was like pay the pros, and then the MPL came out, and everybody's like, what, pitchforks.
Exactly.
So I think that this one was the winner for two reasons of opposite sides of the spectrum. One, I think it is good that Wizards is finally doing something with the ambassadors, with their content creators. It's no longer this like random unknown thing as to why someone's getting a creator kit, as it were. And for years, it's always been like, well, how do I get on this list, or who is on this list? And creators didn't even know if they were on a list. The ambassador program is sort of solidifying that.
Yes.
On the other end of the spectrum, it is and was not clearly defined. The community as a whole didn't understand what it meant. I felt like an announcement ahead of time going into the ambassador program would have been helpful for that. So there was, something is moving. This is good. And also we don't know what the heck this is. This is bad. And those two things together made the MTG ambassador hashtag very popular for one reason or the other.
Yeah, I would say the issue being that a lot of people just made a lot of assumptions for some unknown reason. Just like, they got to their jump to conclusions board and then just went, and I think the issue for me is literally every other company has some type of ambassador thing, right? It's maybe called 20 different things, but like they all have that. So like the fact that Wizards was finally making that didn't seem weird. Yeah. But just seeing people's reaction was very surprising. Not to mention the number of people who were just making up stuff outright related to the brand didn't help either.
When you don't define things, the internet will define it for you. And usually in the most negative, awful, crazy way that you didn't even see coming. And that's kind of what it is.
I mean, ultimately, obviously the hashtag was was popular for all of those reasons. You use, there's no such thing as bad publicity, and when you're discussing this good or ill, you're going to talk about the hashtag. So it was by far and away the best choice for discussion this year. Also, not to touch on something else, but hashtags are being less used perhaps than they otherwise would have, considering the fact that X is less popular than it used to be.
Yeah.
But there's that. So we might have to rename this
and also,
TikTok trend of the year in the future.
Because D&D Be Gone, that's a good hashtag.
That's a good hashtag. D&D Be Gone is a good hashtag.
That's a good one. I got to give credit.
It was nice. All right, so we're going to move on here to our next segment, and that is our In Memoriam segment. Unfortunately, we lost things throughout the year, which we unfortunately have to do as life moves on. And one of the first things we lost this year, at least to mention here, would be Sheldon Menery, level 6 judge, godfather of Commander, an incredible ambassador of the game. Talking about ambassadors, people who really, showed how to, act and, interact with people and reach out and, not give credence to people who were trying to grief, for example. You remember, I think there was that famous, you kind of mentioned, he's like, so-and-so comboed off on turn 1. And they're like, cool, you won the game. We're going to play over here with the other, we're going to keep playing with our other players here, because that to him was more important. And that was something we lost this year.
Yeah, I've heard no one ever say anything bad about Sheldon. He is a paragon of good and of justice. He was one of the leading forces of turning Magic's tournament scene from a wild west of what you could get away with into a game of rules and regulations. Later, he helped pioneer and develop the most popular format of Magic the Gathering as it currently exists. And he continued to be a father figure, a friend, and just someone that you want to be and make proud all the way until his passing earlier this year.
Yeah, he was kind of Magic's equivalent of the most interesting man in the world, right? Like, you could have a conversation with him about anything. He was like a military vet, just tons and tons of stuff. And I think that all led to the respect factor for him. The thing for me that was tough was I kind of knew for a while. There was a few of us that he talked to, and we knew, but we still all thought there was more time.
There's always more time.
Yeah, we didn't think it was just going to happen when it did.
Right.
But he was very much not even wanting people to know, right? He was like, hey, he's still taking treatment, still showing up to events, still doing his stuff, trying to help people out all the way to the end.
Yeah.
And that's just the type of person that he was.
Yeah, he was very supportive of content creators of all sizes, which was amazing. I know he, the last 2 years, especially since I started Decked Out, he was a person who welcomed me into the Commander space when I otherwise wasn't really feeling that. I got to play on the RC streams with him and some of the other rules committee people. But also I know some smaller content creators that are on my team, Top Deck. They were very, very supported by Sheldon, and he made a world of difference to them. And I honestly don't think some of them would be still creating content today if it wasn't for him. And then also, being someone who organizes events at some of the command fests, Sheldon was the first person to jump into a game with just about everybody. And I have never seen someone so friendly and happy to play with everybody and share in that joy.
There you go. So let's move down the list a little bit here through TONT Woodruff, an MTG designer, unfortunately passed. The Judge Academy left us this year officially to be replaced by, what was it called? Judge something? I can't remember.
They're still working on it.
Yeah, we're not sure yet.
There
to
you go.
Be determined.
1,800 plus layoffs in 2023, which were terrible.
Yeah.
The OG draft booster. We make no more draft boosters as of 2023.
Boo.
I know. Ruben, you want to handle the rest of the list there?
Sure. Well, not the place I learned Magic, but the place that I've probably spent the most hours at F&M, Comic Town Morse Road in Columbus, Ohio, closing 30-ish years. If you went to a PTQ in Columbus, there's a good chance it was at Comic Town Morse Road, or at least they were one of the people who who helped organize it. So one of my local places. And then we had many bans in formats this year of cards that we are saying goodbye to, although you can play them in a new format now. Karn the Great Creator and Geological Appraiser both said goodbye to both Pioneer and Explorer. Fury and Up the Beanstalk said goodbye to Modern, and Monastery Swiftspear was introduced and then de-introduced to the Pauper format. And so those were among the cards that we said goodbye to this year.
Yeah, and that's kind of how it landed there. The Judge Academy is being replaced by the Judge Foundry. Thank you, chat. Appreciate that. And yeah, we've had some losses this year, and that's unfortunately the way it goes.
Yeah.
We want to hear to our next Magic Mixie and most hated card. Last year's winner was Fable of the Mirror Breaker, which they finally got rid of, I think, earlier this year, right? First thing this year?
So.
Yeah, it was like March-ish, I think.
Yeah. That's another one that could have been in the In Memoriam segment.
Right. And they were just like, we realize it's super fun, but we recognize it's super annoying. Thank you, Wizards. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So for our most hated card nominees, Nerd Girl, you want to tell us about them?
Yeah, the most hated cards that we had from this year, for a lot of different reasons. First up, we've got Shieldred the Apocalypse from Dominaria Remastered. No, Dominaria
United.
United. Thank you. I knew it had a thing.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is Counterspell from the Secret Lair.
That weird counterspell. They got.
Oh yeah, you're talking about the one that had like the 15 different things wrong with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That one.
Yeah.
The
like
One
the
Ring
name's
from
too small, the symbols are too big. Like it's got. Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
The One Ring from Lord of the Rings. Orcish Bowmaster, also from Lord of the Rings. Up the Beanstalk from Wilds of Eldraine, and Atraxa Grand Unifier from All Will Be One.
There you go. And our most hated Magic Mixie goes to Orcish Bowmasters. This card was super duper annoying. It remains annoying. In the new Timeless format, it is a staple, and it's a staple in almost all the old formats. It's dumb, and I kind of low-key hate it.
Yeah.
As it is the most hated card. If you don't know, Orcish Bowmasters is a rare from the Lord of the Rings set. It's a black and a generic mana for a 1/1 Orc Archer. It has flash, and when it enters the battlefield, and whenever an opponent draws a card, except for the first one they draw in each of their draw steps, it deals 1 damage to any target, and then you amass Orcs 1. It's just so efficient. It makes things like Dark Confidant look kind of silly in that way. You have to wait a whole turn, and you don't get your thing immediately, and you don't get to flash down in response to some spell and just like blow their board away. But nope, now you can, and this thing is here with us for the foreseeable.
This card
it's everywhere.
This card is bad it's a good card, but it's bad for Magic in a number of ways, like in all of the ways. It's not iconic. Like it's super generic to be one of the best cards from the Lord of the Rings set. It's too many words in a text box. It makes aggressive decks look stupid. It does too many things. The ability could have half as much text and still be very good, and it doesn't cost enough. And to top it all off, it's not even playable in Standard. So, they didn't do anything here. And also, it makes drawing cards bad. And I love drawing cards.
Yeah, to Nerd Girl's point, like it's literally everywhere. Like if the card's legal in the format, at least half, if not more, of the decks are playing 4X. Like, I mean, and rightfully so. I mean, it even has flash. So you can just you don't even have to commit to doing anything. You can wait and see like, oh, you're going to brainstorm? Awesome. Have some damage and I'm going to go ahead and get me a couple dudes. Like, so the card's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and
it's too much.
It's just too much for what it does. It's absolutely silly. Let's move on here to the next Magic Mixie for the most loved card. If we're going to go hating, we better turn it around and show which ones that we like and or love the most. Ruben, can you tell us about our most loved card nominees?
Yeah, all of these make me so happy. So we'll start with Skrelv, the Detector Mite, or Defector Mite from All Will Be One. He's a cutie, and he survived. And he's just existing on one of the circles of Mirrodin. The halfling Tolkien. They printed the halfling with the word Tolkien instead of token for the Lord of the Rings set. That was great. There was a bunch of great stuff in the Lord of the Rings set that could have made an appearance here.
It's true.
Shadowfax showing us the meaning of haste being another one. Then there was the weathered card back from MTG Arena that they gave us on April Fools, but was so popular that they just made an always food. They just gave it to everybody and was the only card back I've ever purchased on Magic Arena because it's great.
It's great.
Ian Malcolm Chaotician. They put Jeff Goldblum on a Magic card. Science went too far from the Jurassic World collection. And Sir Ginger, the meal ender from Wilds of Eldraine, taking a beloved character from an animatic and turning it into a Magic card.
Yeah. And Nerd Girl, tell us about the winner of the Magic Mixie for Most Loved Card.
Yeah, the winner is going to be Sir Ginger, the meal ender, because she's amazing.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I think the cool part about this card is that it was almost like a follow-up from a couple years prior, right? Like, because we had that cool animated sequence, super memorable, like everybody loved it. And then for whatever reason, we just didn't have the cards in the set, right? Like, and it was like, well, why not? So it was really cool to see that R&D at least went, hey, we know if we're going to go back and visit this, we have to make a card for this character.
Yeah, also, Food Night. Food Night is a great pipeline.
Yeah, this is the type of thing that, you know, I feel like maybe someone on like a lark was like, we'll do this weird animatic with these gingerbread people and it'll be cute and people will like it. But it's like, no. People don't just like it. Like, they want to just have that be part of the game now. We need to know who these characters are and what they're going to do about it. And the grape on the fork thing is just absolutely brilliant. And like, the flavor is oozing here. The card itself is really sweet. And I just love it. I think it's great.
And I mean, the original video was so cute.
Yeah.
Like, they couldn't not make that a character, like an official Magic card.
Yep.
Last year's winner was the Wandering Emperor, and it remains a hell of a Magic card. It just didn't come out in 2023. So let's move on here to the Magic Mixie for Drama of the Year. Oh, the tea. Oh, the tea that we spilled. Power Dragon, can you tell us about our nominees for Drama of the Year?
Yeah, there was quite a lot this year. I mean, I think we forgot how long 2023 was. But yeah, we had some packs get leaked for All Will Be One. So that was a thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, we had the D&D OGL situation, the Pinkertons and the Aftermath stuff with the content creator there. That was a thing. Standard shifted to 3 years. That's a thing that happened that we almost don't talk about anymore. We're still in the middle of that and haven't even had a rotation yet. Wayfarer's Bauble art controversy. That was one where we had an artist that stole somebody else's art and just used it for the background of his art. Like, so that was pretty wild. And then we had the race shifting of all the Lord of the Rings characters because people couldn't handle a black Aragorn or an Asian Legolas. That was nuts. And then, of course, back to talking about the ambassador program being all the mix-up that was.
Yeah.
All right. And Ruben, tell us about our winner for Magic Mixie of Drama of the Year.
Well, speaking of drama, we had a tie in terms of Drama of the Year. And it's both issues that we've talked about. We got to pick one. I guess we have to pick one. We put one in the graphic. I don't know which one.
I'm the tiebreaker. I'm the tiebreaker.
Oh, you're the tiebreaker,
right? So
I would agree with Evan being the tiebreaker.
That's fine. That's fine. Well, our 1A was the ambassador program, but with Evan being the tiebreaker, he's the boss. We got to go back to the OGL debacle. The D&D OGL debacle was so like it was all encompassing.
Yeah.
For so long.
I think the reason too is besides Evan being the tiebreaker, I think the OGL debacle was a bigger, wide-scale WotC drama of the year. And like a lot of the Magic community stayed out of it, but it was larger regardless. And then the ambassador one was more affecting the local community just for Magic. So I think the OGL is a reasonable pick here for the number one.
Though I do want to say shout out to HGMZ because again, 2023 being so long and so many things happening, I forgot. we did have that giant pile of cards that got stolen at Gen Con too.
Oh yeah,
Like-
by the game manufacturer.
No, by the game designers wearing their
Yeah.
game
from
T-shirt.
another game.
Right.
Yeah,
We also
Find
had-
out what happened.
We
Did we ever
also
find out what
had
happened?
Yeah,
We did.
they tracked because they had shirts of their
Yeah,
game.
I remember them
So they
saying
just
that they were
literally-
looking for them.
Yeah, like a week later, just found the guys, and all the cards ended up when holding for a while for evidence or something. They were arrested. Like, it's a whole to do now.
I think the trial is
Yeah.
like going to probably come next year or something.
And
Yeah.
the
That's my
game that they
guesstimation.
were there at Gen Con to advertise probably didn't do great.
Oh, it
Probably
definitely
not.
did.
I would say that this, and part of being the tiebreaker part for me was this reached way outside normal
Yeah.
boundaries. And not only did it reach outside those boundaries, it was there for weeks. This dragged
Yeah.
on for like a month. Like it was
Yeah.
horrible and it was painful and it was slow. And Wizards was like, we didn't want to respond immediately because we didn't want to feel knee jerkish. But if we didn't respond, we felt like we weren't saying anything. And it was a whole
It also
damn
came
thing.
out during like now of last year, like
Mhm.
between Christmas and New Year's. So there was no one responding for a week and a half.
And it burned down and everything was gross. And
Yeah.
that's kind of the way we did it there. So let's move on here to also something fun. And this would be our artwork of the year. What is the Magic Micsie for artwork of the year? What are our nominees there, Nerd Girl?
All right. The artwork of the year is a couple of them, good ones. We have the Graveborn token. We've got the TARDIS border cards from Doctor Who. The Goose Mother, from Wilds of Eldraine. And the Nissa, Ascended Animist from All Will Be One. And the new Elish Norn, Mother of Machines, also from All Will Be One.
And the Magic Micsie for best artwork of the year goes to those crazy TARDIS border cards. Ruben, tell us about these things.
I mean, they're just perfect. I don't know that there is a border that I've thought was better than the art other than these. They're so perfect. The text and the font, the shape, obviously the phone box being box shaped and cards also being rectangular helps. But the fact that they printed these make me so happy.
I think
what I liked about him is I'm not even a huge Doctor Who fan, but if you see one of those in a display case or somebody has one that you immediately identify what it is, even from a distance, you're like, oh, obviously that's a TARDIS, right? Like, and I think that plays a big part in just recognition when you're trying to do a cross-branded product.
For sure.
Yeah.
The font matches the phone box font. It just everything meshed so well for these.
Yeah, I think the for me, sort of what made it super interesting. I went back and looked at the 40K decks, and they've got like a kind of special quote unquote border, metallic-ish or whatever, but they don't do much beyond that. You know what I mean? I don't think they really dove into the borders for each faction or whatever. They said, this is a pretty cool border. It works for all of them. Let's go. This was, a border that kind of took over the card in ways that it hadn't before, that had been themed the ways it hadn't before. And, I think they really kind of started to go there. I would think that we went way, way further with Lord of the Rings special edition stuff. But, from here, to me, it's like, damn, that is Doctor freaking Who. And you can clearly tell it. And they clearly did that with love. And I think it's great. So now for our next Magic Micsie is for coverage moment of the year. Last year, we had no winner.
Yeah.
Because it was kind of quiet in 2022. But let's go over our nominees here. Ruben, tell us about them.
Yeah, so we had the Elijah Wood commercial where Elijah Wood was getting interviewed about the Lord of the Rings set. And he got handed a One Ring and then said he didn't want to give it back. And that made everybody happy. Everybody liked that. Then we had Jake Beardsley making top 8 and then sprinting away from the feature match area and tackling his girlfriend, which was just, I couldn't stop watching that clip. It made me so happy. And then later went on to win Pro Tour Lord of the Rings. Of course, there is the moment where Post Malone bought the One Ring, the one of One Ring, and it was all captured on camera. And it was just a lovely meeting of happiness and joy of everyone getting what they wanted out of the situation. And then there was My Magic Life, which was the brief documentary that BDM hosted and was a interview / tribute with Sheldon Menery that was broadcast and aired at the Magic Fest.
All right. And Nerd Girl, tell us who won the Magic Mixie for coverage moment of the year.
The biggest moment of the year is Post Malone buying the One Ring.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be one of the biggest moments in the history of Magic on videotape. Like, if it was, you can't really beat that. It's hard.
Right.
Yeah, it was interesting because I remember people asked me how much I thought it would go for. And I was like, well, I don't know. If we've had Lotuses go for, a couple of $100,000 or whatever. Like, I mean, I guess this would go for $1 million since it's a one of one. I didn't think it was going to be $2 million, but the situation also came up that the right person opened it, who happened to be a Post Malone fan, they were able to get them together. He was excited to meet him. Posty obviously has been all over the Magic community the last 2 years. So it was just like one of those things where, the planets aligned and it just made perfect sense. And a fan got rich. Post Malone got a unique item. Like, that's pretty awesome.
And it's still up on his TikTok and on his Twitter or X. And it was Brooke Trafton out of Toronto, Canada. You can still go check out the video. He just seems like a nice dude. Post Malone seems like a nice dude. Everyone liked that. Everyone was happy.
Yeah.
The first video of him holding it and him like shaking and like crying and hyperventilating was really cute. And also I want to know, I'm pretty sure Evan has a pie bet here. I think there was a pie bet that the one of one ring wouldn't actually be in the pack. It would be a placeholder.
That's true.
So I'm pretty sure.
So that's on me. We gotta put that on the marker up on the pie bet.
Do we pie you in the face? Is that
we
what
do? That's how that works.
A pie in the face at some point.
It is a pie in the face.
Yeah, I still low key can't believe they put the real card in there. That the video of the guy holding it and the hand shaking, everyone said it was fake because a bunch of fake videos showed up immediately because of course you want to be the one with the one of one or whatever, but this guy actually had it. And so like it went to go sort of kind of through verification. Because to me, I was just like, there's no way they put the actual one of one in a pack. They put a little thing that says it's a Wonka ticket, come to Seattle and they'll do the dog and pony and they'll get the local news station and yada, yada. And they'll present you with the thing. Nope, it's just in the pack, and that was insane.
I saw somebody open a one of one Shohei Ohtani card that said this represents a thing you'll get later, and later they said that it was going to be worth something like $700,000, and this is twice that, 2.5 times that, and it's the real thing.
There were multiple people who were just like, people think this is going to sell for $1 million. They're just clown shoes and don't know what they're talking about. I'm like, well, okay. For me, the key about this being sort of the winner of coverage moment being that this was covered more than anything. This was publicity that just went and went away. It's sort of just like the
they
drama
still have
problem.
Post Malone talking about it in interviews just a couple months ago.
He still takes it around to special events and lets people touch it.
Hell yeah.
We saw that semi recently. And every once in a while, you'll get like a picture of like when he hangs out with like the group in LA, like Talia Vest touching it. And like, it's awesome.
That's so cool.
Still all over.
So the next Magic Mixie here is for format of the year. Power Dragon, can you tell us about the formats of the year that were our nominees?
Yeah, so we had the 3-year standard that we mentioned a couple times now. Obviously, Modern, still super fan favorites. Commander, which got tons of great products this year. Pioneer, still coming up around, but people still like it. And Timeless, which, while new, has actually made a bit of a splash on Magic Arena.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic, like, for me, Timeless was like a little too close. You know what I mean? It just got released a couple weeks ago, and I don't know if it's kind of quite there. I'm absolutely loving it, but I don't know if it's quite there. But Nerd Girl, tell us who was the winner of Format of the Year.
Format of the year is going to be Commander. There has been a lot of new things coming out this year, a lot of new shows that have come out. Like, I think we've tripled the amount of shows that we had from when we started the year.
Wow.
Which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that are doing live streaming now that weren't before for Commander. And honestly, I have to, as much as we talked about the bad things, we do have to give Wizards credit because the commander decks we've been getting throughout the year have all been really good. You know, even just right out of the box, which is a huge benefit to the format. And then when we got fan favorite stuff like Doctor Who or whatever, like those were really flavorful and people really love those. So, you know, for all the other things that happened, Commander, all that seems to have gone right and hit it out of the park.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think that this is the first time ever that we've had a repeat winner of any category on the Micsies, as last year's format of the year was also Commander.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 2-year running. That's a hell of a pedigree.
Yeah.
And it just shows, again, like you saw certain outfits like giving up on 60 card format content. You saw people who, like, I think with Crybabies, who tried to do 60 card stuff and it performed so poorly. They're like, we're going right back to Commander. We'll see you guys at the Commander table, because that's where a lot of people are having fun and enjoying Magic the most these days. And it is wild to have lived through and have seen the 60 card formats be absolute king to this complete transformation of its casual rules everything, like just rules everything.
But, you know, I think the biggest difference for me, seeing the success of them and how they develop, is that you have more entertaining people making Commander content, right? Mm-hmm. The stuff for 60 card was always people being very dry, very analytical, you know, wanting to compare numbers and whatever. But, like, people are genuinely having fun with Commander.
Yes. I think one of the other biggest reasons I voted for Commander is for format of the year is because I have been working shows. I have a booth, and we, you know, sell some merch and we do creator clashes and things like that. But I'm getting a lot of parents and kids that come up and say, I want to buy some stuff. My kid wants to get into Magic. What do I buy? The only thing I can recommend to them is a pre-con deck, because there is no other way that is functional for like new players to get in like it was when I was around. I bought a mono white starter deck from like Torment or something, and I was able to play and get into a game. There's no way for people to do that anymore. They have to basically get into Commander, maybe buy like a dual deck, but they're not even making those anymore.
Yeah, I think they just started remaking starter sets after not having them forever, and I don't know why.
And so this is the way that everybody can play. It is a way that people can get into the game without, like, what are you going to do? Give a kid a standard deck and be like, go find a game? Like, it's not feasible anymore. And so the mass group of players that are coming in and the new influx of players is all focused around Commander.
And it shows no sign of slowing down. As you mentioned, there's a bunch of new shows, including Decked Out, hosted by one of our hosts here. But you know, it also makes sense, right? Because it's a casual format. You don't want to say, hey, welcome to Magic, jump in the gladiator pit. And you also don't want to say, welcome to this game, you need 4 of something. All you need is 1 of something, 100 of those things, but you need 1, and you can put it in a deck. You know, you got a card from a friend of yours. Well, great. You can put it in your deck, and it can be competitive, and it can, or it doesn't need to be competitive. It can be fun.
Yeah.
Game. So.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things. One is I think they've done a better job at making those precons. For example, the Commander Masters, while being a pretty bad set for a variety of financial reasons, the Commander decks for Commander Masters were sweet. The Eldrazi deck, that was dope. I thought that was fantastic. And for Doctor Who, and, you know, to an extent 40K, of being these kind of almost like self-enclosed environments of like, you're going to play the Doctor Who decks against each other. That's the thing you're going to do. The people who love Doctor Who, they're definitely going to do that. And that to me is super cool, is for you to say, hey, everyone craft an environment where Doctor Who things are going to be happening, and all of it's going to make sense, and all of it's going to be balanced with each other. Nothing's going to be too crazy, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And that's kind of where we're at. And if one is a little bit more competitive, quote unquote, the rest of the table is just going to hate you out. So, like, you know, the old self-balancing of political type formats. But ultimately, again, I just can't say that any other format is ruling the roost like Commander is, you know, and didn't do anything but grow and kick butt all year long.
Yeah, I think next year you could see some growth in a couple of the other formats, but this year, no competition. I think it was Commander.
Yeah.
All right. So our penultimate category here is Set of the Year. Last year's winner was the Warhammer 40K set, which was honestly incredible, still looking back at it. Ruben, tell us what our nominees for Set of the Year are.
Well, we had some fun sets this year. Our nominees are Phyrexia All Will Be One, Lord of the Rings, Universes Beyond, Lorcana, the first chapter on the list here, set of the year. Wilds of Eldraine, Commander Masters, and Lost Caverns of Ixalan.
There you go. Well, not quite everyone voting there, but with a resounding yes, we have chosen for set of the year to be the Lost Caverns of Ixalan. This was a set that was full of innovation, that was full of wild interactions. That, you know, even from Wilds of Eldraine, I felt kind of stepped it up in terms of like crazy things you can do with crafting or whatever. Limited environments that were super cool and interesting and weren't super fast, like Phyrexia, for example, but were really intricate and were always changing. So with those crafting mechanics, for example, you had all these different ways to use the same cards, and that to me was the breakthrough of the set.
Yeah, it felt like throughout this year, we almost got like set momentum. Like it felt like each set was like more interesting and drew more people or whatever than the last. And I felt like Ixalan almost had to be good. Like everybody was looking forward to playing with dinosaurs and vampires and whatever. So unless it was really bad, I think it was going to be pretty well received by people. And yeah, all the themes hit it out of the park. Like even the crossover, you know, with the Jurassic World stuff and like everything that was included was so flavorful and so good. Like, and honestly, I would say also Wilds of Eldraine was very good. I think it was a close second for me, you know, really looking at the year as a whole.
That was my vote. I could definitely see Lost Caverns. I thought the limited environment for Wilds of Eldraine was really good, and I thought there was slightly more relevant cards that I like to see, especially for Commander, coming out of Wilds of Eldraine. All of the like mythic enchantment adventure cards were pretty fun and unique. I thought rolls were really cool. And as much as I love, you know, map tokens as a new mechanic, I thought rolls was a little bit more unique and interesting. So that was where my head was at, but definitely do love, also Lord of the Rings had a really great limited environment and some really good cards coming out for Eternal formats. It made food relevant. This was, I think, one of the hardest years to pick a winner here.
Yeah, I think that all of the set designs, Aftermath notwithstanding, although that wasn't a limited environment, that wasn't a full set, that was more of an experiment of what a set could look like. All of the sets were interesting, good, fun, well balanced. Some of them were faster. You can have your
All will be one.
Mythics. All will be one had things going for it. It wasn't the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life.
It was
terrible limited.
It was.
Was it really?
It was just fast.
Oh, it had fun constructed cards.
It had great constructed cards.
I'm not remembering it clearly if that's the case. But I also didn't play it a ton. But certainly the last 6 months of the year, you know, we're all pretty much bangers. They were all well balanced. They were good formats for both constructed and for limited. And you know, there wasn't a you have to draft this color or you will lose kind of situation. You must get a bomb or you will lose kind of situation. And I personally had the most experience with Ixalan, and it was the most prevalent on my mind, which is why it ended up being my choice.
All right, so the final Magic Mixie of the night goes to the card of the year. The card that defined the year of 2023. Now, last year's winner was Fable of the Mirror Breaker, as it defined so much of what 2022 was about as a Magic player. In 2023, we have 3 nominees for Magic Card of the Year. The nominees are The One Ring from Lord of the Rings, Orcish Bowmasters from Lord of the Rings, and Everybody Lives from Doctor Who, which was a giant splash, and everyone seemed to really like that card a lot. But by overwhelming vote, it's not close. From the top rope, it is the winner of the Magic Mixie for Card of the Year is the One Ring. The One Ring, for you don't know, you may not be aware, is 4 generic mana for a mythic legendary artifact from Lord of the Rings. It's indestructible. When it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, you gain protection from everything until your next turn. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life for each burden counter on it. Tap, put a burden counter on it, then draw a card for each burden counter on the One Ring. This card to me was it represented so much of what Magic was doing this year. One of the biggest, if not best sets, it certainly was the best selling set of all time, the best selling set since Modern Horizons 2, like completely crushed in every single metric. Everyone seemed to enjoy it. It did not try to be Modern Horizons so-and-so, did not try to push crazy power levels except in a few spots like this one. And this card has rocked every format it has been in. I think it's incredible. It's a damn feat, honestly, that it is as good as it is, but wasn't just insta-banned and everything. It's just kind of looked, it's looked a little strongly upon by those to say like, man, we kind of skirted a line, but it's the One Ring.
You know, I voted for this one not just because of the card and what it is, but kind of what you said before, where it's sort of what it represented as far as like, hey, we can do some crazy stuff with this Universes Beyond stuff, right? Like it made news across everything. I wouldn't even say gaming sites. Like a lot of people were talking about it, right? Then Posty comes along and buys it. So then we get another round of news for it. And you almost have to wonder how much did that do to bring people into the Magic sphere or get people re-engaged with Magic that may have stepped away just because it became this big to-do. And this was a card that represented all that.
I'm glad that the One Ring, such an iconic piece for such an iconic IP that we were bringing into Magic, was good. It is very good. It doesn't seem to be as hated as Orcish Bowmasters. I want to note that last year, the card of the year was our most hated card of the year as well. Yeah. So this year, it is nice to see that the card of the year is not something that necessarily has a huge negative feeling towards it. I like to see people be happy. And again, I think Posty being part of this and that being a big blow up and it being an iconic thing from the most iconic IP that we've touched this year is just an all around win.
Yeah, I think that card of the year and most hated card has been the same card for some of it may not have been every time, but I do remember Teferi Hero Dominaria, and I believe Alrund's Epiphany was also card of the year and most hated. So it's nice to have a separation.
It is.
And we very easily could have had one nominee in this category. I think that as soon as you say what's card of the year, you know it's going to be the One Ring, I think, for this year. I think that it's nice that it was the most powerful, but not the most hated. I think that it's good that it was great. It's good that it was the One Ring, the ring to rule them all. And it had the stories on, Polygon and NPR and IGN and all those other places that reached far beyond Magic itself. And oh, by the way, it was this indelible moment of buying the One Ring. It's this card that you will see play on vintage tables from now until forever. It's a great story, and I think it's a great card to represent the year.
And somebody right now in Wizards HQ is sweating making the Infinity Gauntlet. Like they are. Like the bullets. The bullets are coming down. How do you make an Infinity Gauntlet? And the stones.
Hear me out. You make an Infinity Gauntlet, 1 of 1. But each of the stones is also one
of one.
So Posty can get all the 1 of 1 stones and the 1 of 1.
Oh, gross.
No, it's gonna happen.
Well, I mean, it makes sense, right? How many tickets were there in Willy Wonka? 8, 7?
Something like that,
Something like that.
So you got the thing. Stop
it. Well, we do want to thank everyone for joining us here for the 2023 Magic Micsies. But as we close out every single show, if you don't make it each week, we do close ourselves out here with a finisher.
Yep.
And we have come to the end of yet another year and yet another Magic Micsies. So as we look forward to the 9th annual Magic Micsies in 2024, what do you predict we'll be talking about at this time next year, Ruben?
Well, now that Baldur's Gate 3 has taken the video game world by storm, Magic will re-release Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, featuring all of the hits you know and love, like Asterion and Shadowheart, plus the one reprint that desperately needs to be added, given BG3's fandom, Bearscape.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Nerd Girl?
All right, well, there's no such thing as bad news. So to capitalize on their most noteworthy product, Wizards of the Coast will follow it up their next big thing as the 31st anniversary, because that is the absolute talk of the town.
Yeah, that would crush. Totally. Power Dragon?
Well, Lorcana's third set is coming down the pike, and surely there's going to be a fourth and a fifth set. No surprise. But given the news surrounding Lorcana, I anticipate the follow-up into the Inklands will be setting sails for delayed shipments.
Oof. Well, look, as Hasbro quarterly reports continue to announce record high shareholder profits followed by record numbers of market decline, I predict that Chris Cox and company will announce secret layer quote or colon stock market, which will advertise having reprints of doubling season and high market. But unfortunately, that news and the cards will be horribly warped. Ah, goodness.
Hey.
And that ends our 2023 Micsies. I want to thank my co-host for being here tonight. Thank you, Ruben.
Thank you so much for joining us, everybody, and thank you for continuing to do this show. I hope that you join us for another year, and I look forward to hosting this with everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Power Dragon.
Hey, it's been fun being the new guy on the year, and also everybody, don't forget, subscribe, give us a rating and a nice little fun review.
That's right.
That's right, Nerd Girl. Thank you.
Thanks for having me back, guys. This is always a blast. I love being a part of the show, and I love getting to come back and hang out with you guys.
You're welcome anytime.
Absolutely. And that ends our Magic Micsies for the evening and for the year. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the show all year long. We'll be back at the beginning of next year with new content, new stuff, new things to do. And for that, we thank you, and we will see you guys here next week. Bye-bye.